As we get closer to the holidays, more preparation goes into place. I know here in St. Mary's there was a practice for the Christmas pageant. Yesterday too in Fort Kent they were practicing, and then after that I happened to stumble into the church to do some errands, and there was the organist was there with a little boy, probably third grade, and he was practicing singing The Little Drummer Boy. And I was listening to him sing, and I counted, there are 21 rumpa-pum-rums in that song. And he was making sure he got all of those rumpa-pum-pums. And I was thinking about that Little Drummer Boy, that song. Although it was written in the 50s, it actually is very popular. There were 2 Broadway plays, there was a show on TV, and there even now is a book about the Little Drummer Boy. And I suppose because with all that and the singing of that song around the holidays, Bing Crosby helped make it famous, we're familiar with that song and the story of how this little drummer boy, this little boy, gave all that he had to the newborn king, his music. It is a story about a little boy who also came to see the newborn king, and he gave everything that he had, his music. And the song tells us that because he gave it from his heart, the song tells us that the Christ child smiled at him. Because he gave that gift, all that he had from his heart, the Christ child smiled at him. And when you think about it, it was a very humble gift. Because in the story, the little drummer boy came after the 3 kings who brought their gold, frankincense, and myrrh. But he just brought the gift, all that he had, his music. And it was to that the Christ child smiled. And when you think about what that little drummer boy did, in a certain way he gave witness. He saw the newborn king, and everything that he had he gave. He gave witness to the newborn king. And I was thinking of that because I heard it in church, but also because in the gospel reading today, we hear about John the Baptist. And John the Baptist's whole life was to give witness to Christ. In fact, did you hear the beginning of the gospel reading? How many times the verb to testify, or the noun testimony, was used? In fact, that gospel passage isn't really about John the Baptist. It's about the person that he points to. It's about the King. It's about Christ. John the Baptist really doesn't talk about himself. When you look at all of the gospel readings, John the Baptist's identity was to point for the coming of the King. He even said, "There's one coming after me more powerful than I, whose sandal strap I am not worthy to unfasten." John the Baptist's whole identity was about witnessing to Christ. Everything that John the Baptist did was rooted in his faith. Everything he did was rooted in his faith. And his whole life was to give testimony. When you read page after page about John the Baptist in the Gospels, he never pointed to himself. He always pointed to the one that was coming after him, the King of Kings. And I think all of us know John the Baptist, not only what he did during his life, but eventually he gave his life for Christ. He was a martyr. King Herod had him killed. The very last thing he did was still speak about witnessing to Christ. And it's interesting, John the Baptist was a martyr. You know the English word martyr? It's not really English. It's a borrowed word from Greek. And you know what martyr means in Greek? It means witness. The martyrs give witness to the power of God. So the little drummer boy gave witness today what he did to the newborn king. And John the Baptist gave witness throughout his whole life, and even his death, he gave witness to Christ. And so this third Sunday of Advent, our time of preparation for the coming feast, the church gives us these readings. And the church asks us the questions that were asked of John the Baptist. The church wants us to reflect upon. Who are you? What do you have to say for yourself? Why do you do the things you do? The questions that were asked of John the Baptist are also meant for us to ask them to ourselves. Just as John the Baptist, his whole life was rooted in his faith, everything he did was because of his faith, so the questions they're asking us, what do you have to say for yourself? Is our lives rooted in our faith? Are the things that we do there because of our faith? We've been collecting gifts for the giving tree for people in the area. That's a witness to the faith. We collect food to help those that need food. All of those things give witness to the faith. They point to something higher and bigger and better than ourselves, which is what John the Baptist did. It's what the little drummer boy did. He didn't have much, but what he had, he gave from his heart, and that made the Christ child smile. And so this week, with the church giving us these readings, it asks us, who are you? What are you about? Because just like John the Baptist, everything in his life was rooted in his faith, so also that should be for each and every one of us. Whether you work or whether you don't work. If you're a teacher, if you're a nurse, whatever it is that you do, a housewife, a grandmother, everything that you do should be rooted because of your faith. Because if we do that, then like John the Baptist, we point to someone bigger and better than ourselves. To Christ. So the church asks us today, who are you? Like the little drummer boy and John the Baptist, do you give witness to the faith? Or as you've heard Father say before, are you part of the witness protection program? And nobody knows who you are or what you believe. The readings today invite us. Follow the example of the little drummer boy. Very small little kid. Didn't have much. But what he did, he gave to the king. John the Baptist never pointed to himself, but to the King of Kings. Who do we point to? Who are we? Together let us profess our faith as we say, I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. I believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, born of the Father before all ages, God from God, light from light, true God from true God. Together let us profess our faith as we say, I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible.